Hello everyone, my name is Meta. I'm the director here at the Hub, and I'll be sharing some more thoughts.
Hi everyone, Michael Jones with Transparent. Just members spoiled about the work of BudgIT, so
Hi everyone, my name is the African Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Here to support.
Yeah.
everybody is Greg Rummel. Using my critical analysis to help partners and clients create that they're working on. So all across all.
Hi everyone, my name is Yokai. I'm a research and data manager at Global Integrity and to do some
One fund public sector and external affairs consultants. So I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you. I'm afraid of budget. Here we some of the design and completing project. Everybody.
Master student at American University.
Hi, good morning, everyone. All right, my name is Stephen Odutobo. Also on the media aspect, which we use media to as a toolkit of advocacy, and also in the local level BudgIT.
Wow.
All right.
I'm Isabella. Hi. I don't know if
Just introduction.
Hey everyone, my name is Isabella Oyele. I am
Another is also member of the advisory report. Yes,
Yes, good morning again. Very happy to be here at the Hub, and I'm just really excited for today's event for a few different reasons, and deepen the existing relationship and partnerships that we've had with BudgIT. And I want to take a few minutes now to give you more context for what partnerships have looked like in the past. Here's some highlights of BudgIT's work in its first 10 years, where I see some gaps and opportunities for BudgIT to contribute here and with government issues. So first up, Physical Integrity, which is the parent organization for Open Hub, has partnered with one of the most recent projects, which is so timely and important, has been tracking Transparency and Accountability Project, working with billions of dollars of COVID-related funds, obviously, that have been committed in the last few years. So speak to you kind more about that, who's involved in that project. in 2019, we formalized a partnership with Civic Hive in Lagos to be one of our first affiliate hubs. So basically, we formalized this network in 2000. All of us who had similar values to create these civic innovation hubs, bringing people to a common vision of making governments work better for people. In 2019, we did some events at Civic Hive, and we've continued Civic Hive as one of 13 affiliate open gov hubs in the world today. Washington, our meeting rooms are named after the cities which have affiliate hubs. So we're actually sitting here in the Lagos, conference room to be hosting this event. Also understand that part of the actual origin story behind when BudgIT was, it also relates a lot to the importance of innovation hubs. I know that has 2011, maybe Ocean, you can correct me if I wasn't there, but I know the very first hubs in Nigeria, and again, it was kind of in that environment that the partnership organization over 10 years ago. So also wanted to just make a note of, but as I said again, Civic Hive, an initiative of BudgIT, has been network. And for example, they've won 2 grants that we've run in the last few years to do joint projects with other hubs. Abuja, for example, who they've partnered with to run a open government, which is kind of a brand new type of accelerator program for people with good ideas. They've also collaborated on a project around police brutality, and then SARS campaign conversations around that important topic as well. So yeah, as the advisory board for BudgIT, and so I'm really excited to help make connections. Office. So now I just want to spend a minute to I see from the history and evolution of BudgIT in its first 10 years. The team sometimes is too modest and too humble about the amazing work that and now in multiple African countries. And I think this is just for what can be to come here in the United States. So I know that the collective work of BudgIT has had like 40 million impressions annually. I know that the team has produced something like 1,500 infographics over the years, important information about government spending and government decision making. They've been offline in addition to all the online channels. They've published 8 state of the state reports only at the federal, national level, public spending of government, but also at the state level. The process. And I know BudgIT has very ambitious so over the next 5 years, the goal to reach 100 million citizens, to establish a $30 million endowment, and to build upon partnerships, which BudgIT has already created over the years to do its amazing work. The team may be too modest, but I feel that I want to bring that into the conversation because for anyone who's what needs to come. So the last quick points I just wanted to share to kind of the U.S. open government and civic tech sector and how it works here in the United States, not only its international work. Having been part of kind of the civic tech field for a number of years, I think many start with the tech and then add the civic later on. And sometimes So I think, for example, budget can really add a lot of value by in the values of civic participation and civic engagement first, and then finding, rather than starting with a nice shiny technology tool and then trying to make it solve it works very well. So I think budget is really unique and can, again, what's the vision of social change that we have, and how can technology be a tool but not the goal? I think that's one important contribution. And then finally, the second area where I see the American kind of open government and civic tech space, in addition to the international movement, like national and the state and local conversations about making government, again, more state and local. Because again, budget has such a great track record. National across all the state level public spending, and again, service delivery. It's rare that an organization can have such a powerful impact at both levels. All of the additional African countries that budget is expanding into, as well as to keep those as part of one conversation. How are we making national government more open? And keep in mind too, right, that the United States is it's very hard to have governance reform here because it's just such a big country, and we're but there's actually some very strong parallels, I think, with Nigeria, at least in terms of population, right? Like there's services to huge populations. So I think that is just one. So the last thing I want to share for today is part of my excitement supporting budget with in this next chapter. I'm really, really happy recognizing that good ideas and innovation can come from anywhere. And rather than having an organization in the global north, kind of exporting its ideas into the global south, flipping the script, where we're importing, let's say, good ideas, right, from Nigeria. I think all of us know that, there's good talent and good innovation happening. But unfortunately, the power dynamics sometimes limit how much we can actually share. So again, I'm really, really delighted to see such an incredible contributor. Budget has been such a powerful leader for the last 10 years. And I think with the global national work, there's just huge opportunities for us to really fulfill this shared government and accountable government. So I will stop there, and very excited for the partnerships.
Wow. So, with his wife, and I feel so similarly working with Capital Foundation for about 8 years. I don't even know if it's quite for that. Yeah, it's quite. So, he's a round of applause. We'll take and I think also you can then also.
When you're in such groups,
Yeah. No, people. So we take Yana will share the screen, then we will I'll take my presentation. Thank you so much. Nada always mentions that we tend to undersell our stuff. Yes. And the work we've done in Nigeria is one is about research and fiscal research, budget, and making sure that every single person understands how that works and breaking it down for every common conversation on the basis of that. We've also done huge work around service delivery. You can see I really we run the largest public tracking project, at least in every power posted project in tracking in Nigeria. The third thing, also understanding that Nigeria, because we start from Nigeria, it's difficult to know how the entire industry is more transparent. We in Nigeria, right point, and it was around is in parts petroleum industry build and parts that we have. That's and the fourth thing is institutional partnership, which is what media financials together and to be able to transform them. But we're really, really conservative about scaling. Feeling that we governance here, and the governance is sort of way always trying to distribute the menstrual sanitary country to do that. But when it comes to like trying to transform governance, context can be one of different. So we're significantly conservative about scaling. We even tried that. I think the pandemic opened our eyes to say, with the whole global connection and global push everywhere. And so what's our 10th anniversary? In 2019, we made a deliberate decision. We've been with Sierra Leone before. There was an election called 2014 to 2019 in Sierra Leone. And we felt that since we understand Sierra Liberia, we also put Ghana in 2020. Liberia also seems fully funded by the Liberia Corporation, so we're really excited to cover the operation over the next 2 years. That's our plan. Syria and also Ghana project is playing the fourth foundations for this. In 6 months to be able to get on mark and able to now in this side. They're not each one. We just want to take it step at a time, but we decided what we want to do. Then we thought of the US. First challenge here it was a challenge because it's easy to look to Syria. Sometimes it could be on first back or two. And we even tried the new fintech apps. It looks like everybody was concentrated on it. But no one was thinking of Liberia, Syria, and $2 billion. We finally made up our minds to that was the thesis for expansion. I remember there's a website that was launched. The next slide. About the and when you still bomb, and a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, this is typically the budget." I mean, this is breaking down the US data to simple and interesting. There is an opportunity for us as a organization. And someone, this is what I have here. So I mean, from the beginning, we started. Rather said, offices in Lagos and Abuja. We opened it up in 2020. Myself and Abuja, he picked up, just that it's in London right now, so I'm able to make it. And the key thesis was that we're going to use technology to intersect citizen engagement and institutional improvement to facilitate change. The key mission was that technology, data, and storytelling were going to be the fundamental pieces to try to be engagement with people. And then we started with budgets, now we're expanding to spending, the other is planning to basic transparency and accountability. Our tone in Nigeria has always been very aggressive with government. So even those people don't find us too friendly. I remember I was here for the annual meeting on Tuesday, and the meeting that was organized by Carnegie Endowment. And there was one 18 minutes that took a picture of ourselves and said, "How do we force these people because I'm getting into trouble?" So like, how are the baddest of people like that? And it's just because that's how we feel. Our fundamental thesis is on the systems. We want to talk directly to systems. Now, if government gets along with us, I will get so excited about that. But that might also change now how we think our strategy in Nigeria in the next few years. We're also thinking maybe a window of opportunities because with the current government we might explore more collaborative work in the next administration. But here in the US, we tweak the ability to say we want to use art. One of the things that we want to be big in the US is to think through art. We feel like to use data is great for narrative, storytelling, engaging people from a position of creativity is extremely important to be able to bring issues forward. We are also very aware that Nigeria and the US do not have challenges in governance, but the issues are not just the same. So we also want to be very careful in how we use art, technology, and research to stimulate civic participation. Our focus will be on what we see called as underserved and vulnerable communities. We had a conversation with Dr. Amiteki, and where we had this short conversation in Starbucks on Howard County and around the situation. And for anybody I live in Prince George's, somehow the dream of my wife is to live in Howard County. So she felt that was like a perfect place because of the quality of the school. And it doesn't take a 15 minutes conversation with him to understand that there are even challenges in places that we might think have a cloud of perfection. But it's to look at understanding vulnerable communities and through the lens of race, orientation, and geography. Looking at how we can use stimulate their participation. And our mission is that we will involve ourselves in a rigorous work that will develop more equitable work, where human dignity is preserved and rights are protected. We have a long story in there. And we started in 2011, myself and Joseph and Naka mentioned that. We grew and we had 15, 2011, we started in 2013. We have a 10-year anniversary last few months ago. Then 2014, we opened Tracker, started Tracker and Extractive Transparency. They were left before in 2014 and we went on our own. Our major funding was in 2016 when we got $3 million from the Gates Foundation and Government. But we got the support from Mark from OCUA, from the State Department for them. In 2017, that was when our connection with Open Government started, when we opened Civica, where we also felt we should incubate new ideas around technology. And that was when we partnership with them. Then we've grown to, in 2018, I felt like I should step down from the guy executive role in Nigeria. Personally, I also got to do some work at Columbia University in the US. So we have a lead in Nigeria capable of humanities our Nigeria project end-to-end. And that took us a phase. In 2021 to 2024, we are on expansion, scale, and growth, and trying new geographies and trying to innovate around them. Then we create as our guiding values innovation. We would try to be rigorous with that, think through the programs and meters we have run that recently. Sustainability, we think clearly about that, systems thinking. We're not thinking silos, and that's why we're happy that we're able to speak to the foundation and bring other partners on board. We'll be proximate. So even in another 6 months, we'll try and make sure that we don't have a Nigerian team in the US who will do as much as possible to bring people who are proximate to issues in the US to actually be the lead for what we are in the US. Which is something we want to be clear about. We want fact-driven, we put inclusion in there, and we also make sure that we scale as much as possible. These are bigger things that we're thinking around our guiding principles. Now, in terms of what we want to start with, the first thing we're kicking off with thinking is research and policy. We feel, what this approach is start with data, start with understanding from the position of evidence of what exactly is in the communities. So we want to make sure that the work around undeserved and vulnerable people is starting with the position of data. And we know there is significant amount of data compared to Nigeria. So we're able to watch the data.gov. And how do we still use public resources to optimize public good? that is just the whole thing. So what is about how do public resources, how are public resources optimized for public, especially when they are vulnerable and on this when we vulnerable people, we talk about people of color, talk about people who even people who help poor people put it that way, and incredible just to be able to put people into proper classes to say we feel this how public policy choices should be optimized for people. Then we also want to build accountability to data that significant work will be at the county level. That's what we're doing in the US. So we're now the federal government will do speak for us, but we're thinking more of the county level, but well in the US. And it's a bit commonality about accountability, county level. We come from Nigeria where the federalism system is very dysfunctional. So everybody's going to send that state money. But what we learned in the US by understanding the system here is there's some level of independence across all the ends in terms of the county work and the state level, the fiscals at the federal level. Our clear thinking is that we will be able to do more of this in that of using data and science and hard to be conversations at the county level for reform. And so, how do we work with arts groups, data groups, communities, civic groups, and local communities to dissect the county budget more effectively and to be able to stimulate conversations for policy reform? But our interest is to even keep up with counties that surround the TNV area, possibly Howard, Prince George's, Fairfax, and also possibly these are the three counties, Harrisburg, and Pennsylvania. We also want to build interactive technology, considering here is a place where we could be visual building designs for people to see budget in a much more interesting way, public finance in a much more interesting way. There are a lot of work that we know like ProPublica, even media agencies like New York Times and CNN in terms of building data in a more interesting way. Also want to significantly invest in interactive tech to make data more possible. I won't go too deeply into this, but as I've spoken around how and what we push research and we will look at disabilities, people call LGBT, and underrepresented classes. We'll also look at arts for civic change, work with our community leaders, and how we can use that to build engagement from a perspective that's much more interesting, and making sure that we're able to use that for conversation with vulnerable marginalized groups, and also use interactivity, immersive and intuitive technologies for data visualization as much as possible. Most important also is that we will leave our international office will come from here. Maybe not, maybe in another 1 or 2 years. We would possibly move our HQ from budget from Nigeria down here to be able to manage only our Nigeria is huge already, so we leave Nigeria as a separate instead. That's even the structure we're running right now. We have the Nigerian office huge enough to have its own independence. We have international programs, which is what I manage right now, and all the country partners across each country. Then we will lead our international office leadership here. We also want to coordinate Pan-African research from here. So it's some sort of way Pan-African coordination, things that have to do with Africa and interest us. Interestingly, the new OSF structure in Africa, where they're collapsing all our sub-regional work into cities, is an helpful because now we're even seeing more work to not just work that to in Nigeria, but even our new expansion even makes that much more effective. So we want to also be able to coordinate Pan-African work on this space. So not yet. China is here, so that's something we'll be interesting to go about. So in 2 years, what we want to do in some sort of way, we want to build interactive solutions to deepen awareness of subnational budgets, visualize US budgets, and focus on the wider range of issues. And not just visualize, but visualize from the lens of how does fiscal challenge. That's one of the things and research documents in certain countries. Public policies and vulnerable national groups. We want to build momentum community meetings. We can from the budget with some of their arts groups conversation mentioned that in the next 2 years, we need to reach 110 million people across the continent of Africa. Our work is that we will build partnerships with stimulate the community and use technology society that just works more. The key goal is policy reform and policy on public standpoint. Our interest is to leverage on our partners over time. Within the next 2 months, our goal is to talk to our partners and do fundraising. As we would say, from research perspective, from community building, myself and Dr. Lawal and anyone at the other work in UC. Leading people also right here to be able to expand this kind of work. Any form of support we're not trying to raise much, 500,000 for the to be able to run for a year and be able to perform on research. And that's it all from the starting. Was a vaccine. Yeah, it's our program in Russia too. It's a whole pleasure being here today. This is the plan. Africa. We'll have a plan for Kenya in Q3 2023. Also a great strategic space for us. It's really, once we're able to open up the start people might slow down a bit. So, yeah, there's a lot of excitement for that environment. So thank you so much. We will take it for the first round questions. Then I will have a short conversation with Dr. Mefepi. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, sir. And welcome to time. We appreciate. And also, we also want to learn from what you have to tell us, from what he has explained in the next few years to come. And we also want to, we are iterating, trying to also pick up from ideas from the room and your space, right? And so, with that in mind, I would like to ask feedback to the presentation. What we'd like to see, what we also achieve in the next few years to come. So, if anybody is in the house and want to ask questions, I'm not forgetting us, so we can also have questions. So, please, if you have any questions, call me. Yeah. Anybody?
I found the interesting. I guess my question is, why should other offices and hubs that you have?
Do you want to ask a question one after the other? Or take all the other questions?
It's just check.
If you have questions, please you can drop them on the chat box and we'll be able to pick it from there.
Again, let me take your question.
I think so. Like I said, it's not. This is huge. Like I said, it's still a primary office. I think it's and also for the ease of transfers of funds. I mean, it makes it easy to coordinate. But still, it's still going to the initiation of the thinking and strategy. Or more places just have because even to be honest, our international office direct our Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana office from Chicago. It feels much more easier to move from here. But it doesn't mean we want we want to be as grounded as possible. We don't want to organization. That's not the key goal. We want to still be as grassroots community. In here, we're not trying to be another think tank. We're not trying to be much more community kind of organization. That's why we think about county. That county issues are the most critical issues for every person. State, or if I have an issue with the road or the education system, that can be that kind of fun. And so for me, I think that's what I was. So it's not because we're trying to be a governor.
Thank you for that really interesting question. I also was, had, and I think what Nanda said was flipping the narrative with this, in the sense that a lot of influential donors, funders, INGOs, most of the ideas flow from the global hub, and I guess Washington DC is one in space. So it's nice to have a locally led approach going from the north in a way, and also influencing a lot of how they approach it. And I guess also another interesting thing is, and about the idea of having that Pan-African sort of collaboration. Main goals of the US office, in the sense that there's a lot of Africans here and a resident here, but I still want to be active somehow and contribute my skills from where I'm based in the US and promote open governance. So I wonder if there's a platform or sort of those who are based in DC, who have skills, support open governance and elsewhere from here.
It's a great feedback. We're not thinking of to build maybe a diaspora hub. To really be able to also influence the conduit for that. I think it's something critical. Skill set around this environment when it comes to development and governance issue is really, really useful. And we're trying to have huge conversation on edge issues. Whatever. And we're looking for, we have people who have agencies who are World Bank and work public sector, and able to give you much more wide something that we can really think about in terms of program. How do we go from here associated to influence issues.
All right. Any more questions? Okay.
Yeah. You're thinking for the arts, engaging like arts community and storytelling, because of course, public thing that exists. So I think it's absolutely a really critical strategy, and I would just love to hear more about to really like make this more accessible and everyday people.
I think two challenges in the US at the all to how government works. Then once you can leave so just to answer the question through that context.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. And to be honest, and that's why we the community. We thought we were looking for communities that had a little more connection. It's not we have Nigeria. Twitter was like our platform to get it. That's followers in there. So it was easy. We used that moment to do. We've seen that it might not be that way. Too many distractions. um, and has to be within the county. There's affiliated even with art community. Some of them are members of 1,500 members. And use art to speak about budgeting issues. And we have the numbers, and basically now you have the human center to it. So whether it's not whether it's poverty in this county, for example, we communicate that in a much more interested and effective way. That's what we're talking about. That you need to share how you manage resources for the challenge. So we feel like the art communities really want to start using that to reach out to the community as much as possible. So you might look at it, things, it could be drawings, it could be poetry, it could be different things that look at art, but we think that that is the way we can build a quiet community. All right. Okay. So,
So I think I want to echo the points made by others. Different this approach is. It's not something I've seen. At least it's not something I've seen. So with hopefully a lot of promise.
Yeah.
Which is possible.
Mm.
I do have a question though. In order for the audience for the work, it seems to me that there are interesting, very important for the budgets, research and policy work. Do you have a sense? That's is it, so globally, is it people of African descent? What's your audience?
that's a good question. So, what's first policy makers? So in level. So wherever conversations we're building with the art that we're trying to point out from our end is to be able to influence public policy. And so now we meant to build to change to reform public policy. So that is also like the arts community. That's like second ideas. The art, music, poetry, as I mentioned, to be able to technology and arts together, and being able to use that to. And the third one is the African diaspora. As much as possible back home in Africa. So one of the key things we also do might be international, invest in more Pan-African research as much as possible. So issues of price and debt issues, debt servicing costs in Africa are much more interesting these days. What is the African perspective? We didn't know this in Nigeria, but now maybe this is where we Pan-African perspective. I'm able to drive things like the World Bank, possibly from Africa, to be able to bring pro-state conversations around. How do you stimulate a community of art to talk about civic issues? Not, I mean, I know I'm sure there are more than 500 counties in the US. Especially 2 or 3 or 5 or 4, and to build gradually from there. it feels like we're flipping the script, and it's like in some sort of way very. But we also don't think it's like another said. If we are able to show that our own intentional approach of using creative to build engagement value in Nigeria, then we believe also. So it's to be able to test that, and we're going to be very rigorous to test on very small. We want to test maybe 3 or 4 counties in the next 2 years at most. Now, exciting possibility. And if there is no possibility, then we make adjustments as maybe this is what works. This is what
Please, a round of applause for everyone. Now, I think we've talked so much about counties, and we also want to understand that also helps us to have an insight into what we are planning to do. So, welcome Dr. Paul Amotepi to talk in just 15 minutes, have a conversation reviewing the Howard County, and I think that's also. Let me give you a round of applause. Please have a seat and
yeah, I mean,
allow them, talk. All right, listen. Thank you very much.
all right.
So with 12 days before that, but I'm happy with them. We had about this conversation in South New Hampshire is really interesting for me. So, I know but we also around cultivating after that for reforming
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Paul Amotepi. I'm originally from Ghana. US now since the year 2000. And I'm aware many involved over the years. So I originally trained as a medical doctor. Went into public health, worked on USAID funded projects. And those projects took me to Africa for the most part, where ministries of health and statistical organizations to design in. Now, over the years, my roles have changed, whereby presently with Youth Break Foundation USA, I'm actually the executive adoptions. Now, Adoptions is an organization that supports to live as closer. A friend of mine from childhood happens to be of Youth Break Foundation in Ghana. Now, foremost youth focused, not Africa, if you ask me. They've been, and when conversation came as to reaching out to Africa, so we just funded Youth Foundation US started doing any work here. But considering the fact that I do live in Howard County, we were also thinking of starting with. Now, it just so happened that my friend was in the US and it was a chance encounter to BudgIT. So the invitation came to come here. So here we are. I'm not an expert on Howard County, but what I can say is Howard County is not only in Maryland, but actually in the entire USA. I don't think there is any any county that is 100%. Okay, so what we know when you go to Census Bureau, of course, is predominantly what over 50% Black or, or African American, percent also Asian, and about 7% Hispanic. Speaking from the Youth Bridge Foundation perspective, we have a 5% under 18 years of age. That is a huge population there that water for that press. Now, Youth Bridge Foundation focuses on research on youth, advocacy, training, and mentorship. Government, everything that you've been describing, in my mind, fit very well. We want to work with the youth on. So happy to be here, to be associated with you, and honestly, will be what gives you to start off with Howard County, identify exactly what the needs are, and then move on.
Before we wrap it up, I used to say, the town is someone that's been. What would you say are the challenges that can be fixed by the council? I know everyone has asked me more from the council, but let's look at the evidence of failure. I was at failure and protection for issues. Remember, it's just like 20 minutes for the meeting. We're living in this. Or maybe what is only about council last week. And somehow my car was stolen. I was shocked. Is there something that it looked like a mystery? Like, right? And it was like that was 2010 Ford Fusion. So I wonder why would someone steal that car? I later found it 3 months after. I feel that challenge, and every single day there was always a sign. And so for me, for me, whole experience, what would you see as challenges that you see? Problem that how to shoot they're not trying.
Yeah. Howard County actually come up.
And then you know,
So when I came for graduate school, I city. I used to live close to Penn Station. Change that much if you were to ask me. So let me step outside of Howard County and get Baltimore City. That's about 20-minute drive from live. You don't need to be already feel the need for security, the need for during the COVID times, it was very homeschooling, but there were a lot of households that didn't have good. There were still households of parents who couldn't really afford laptop computers, and so on and so forth. So, yes, in as much as it's more affluent, we are going to the city side. There are, you can even narrow it down to maybe the transition you're doing, but youth-wise, you have to immigrants who find themselves in a bit of trying to assimilate and understand where parents are coming from and also yeah.
I think, like you said, we experience something, but I know for my experience in Nigeria is that you talk to governments and they decide about you, and tomorrow you try something. When it comes to institutional response, that I mean, we believe that people like us, social context, well, I'm also just checking to say the response. Is there a sense of accountability that should be talking to the same? Is there a bit of interest in that as a feedback of
If you ask me from the perspective of where I live in our county, I would say yeah, more progressive counties in not only for the US. We have currently best actually in the history of the county. And been able to put systems in place where the county is quite responsive. Yes. Residents, you are able to just pick up the phone or speak with somebody. Yes.
I think it's just hear about that we still build up recognize here is exactly this place for us done.
Thank you, sir. So, yeah.
I believe that section was insightful and they were able to pick one or two things. Yeah, it's an experiment and we hope it's successful, right? Okay, so time to ask, this is 12. I think we're very, very conscious of time. Yeah. All right, so please, if you have questions, and we also want to hear from you can hear us. We would really love you to participate. Right, questions. We have speakers, but also we want you to contribute. Either just add your own contributions. We are already also waiting for that. So please, by show of hands, if you have any questions for Dr. Amitepi, the solution from the video conversation we just had, please by show of hands, you can ask the questions now. Anyone? Mine is not a question. Okay, sir.
But I just want to start by congratulating BudgIT for coming this far. When 10 years ago you guys started, I could remember several challenges starting the work in Nigeria. But I'm really excited to see the progress that has happened in the last 10 years. And there was something that I'm not, this is not disrespectful, pointing at you, but because you said something that that I really want to draw attention to, which is how do you really get communities interested in the possibilities? This is something that I know you guys have had to also deal with, and which remains a challenge even back in Nigeria. That when you do all of those smart, really in-depth analysis and put it out there, how do you get the people to actually, take it and run with it? And this is one of the conversations that Michael Jarvis, who is the head of TI, and I have had like on air. And really, I'll be hoping that you guys will be more deliberate and in paying attention to what can be learned here. Perhaps there are some lessons really that we can pick up, especially because Shewa had also emphasized the point about using art and connecting the communities, art communities as well. I think there's a whole lot that can be learned. So I will be really looking forward to that to learn more, because this is something that I think goes right to the heart of a lot of the interventions that we have in Africa. That if you are able to tackle the problem of transparency by just making things available, citizens will pick up and take action. And how we therefore get to that point of action, I think it's something that many of us are still struggling with. But I leave it to you, the experts in the field, to find the solution, and we will take it. So thanks and congratulations once again.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, all right, thank you very much. I have to get permission from my boss. So the Art for Civic initiative is actually like central to the work. And the reason is because when myself and Sean first talked about this last year, like quarter two, we have to think about what do Americans consume in terms of culture consumption here. Out in Africa, we can spark a whole community conversation by just letting them see that the big man stole from the farm and everywhere is going to like us. But over here, that kind of conversation may not even happen because there seems to be structure to at least contain those type of behaviors that we kind of find out there. But here, art is key. There's almost any building you look at here that you don't have a solid mirror on the wall. There is almost every night there's a spot. Like TV in America, football is going on almost every night. So that is actually the space you want to leverage. And when you talk about leveraging art, there's so much that can happen in that space. I'm also a doctor, but I went in advertising and design field. And that actually opened my mind to the concept of understanding human insights. Whatever you look at how America has shifted the whole Hollywood and film, they shift the whole rap and the whole rap and music space. Sometimes Africans get so upset. This year, Whiskey did a lot of work. Then we didn't get the Grammys, the whole continent just light up, like what is going on out there? But America has good stuff going on in that space. And that is exactly what we want to work with. We see a lot of street artists that are like destitute. How can you, if I speak to the street artist, how do you interpret transportation in your art? Can I see it? And then it becomes more important because the elites in America actually consume art a lot. So we feel that has become the point of connection. So imagine we get street artists to do great work, and then we bring the elite in the same community to come and see it. That really comes because that's the leisure. And then at that point, we cannot begin to connect. I know we also have issues with our assumptions around how can that now become economic connections too, because when you do this work, you bring them to the exhibition and even costed and pay for it, and a lot can happen in that space. We are also thinking of NFT because I have seen a crazy street artist. I actually recorded this video and sent to you. I was at the bus station and he was doing this really hyper detailed pencil sketches. This guy doesn't have a university, and I was just thinking like, somebody can buy this for $200, and that will take care of the next week for this guy out there. So we hope that this approach will answer your questions, sir, and hopefully we want to learn from it, because yes, there's research component of observing how that actually even accepted. engaging community is not easy. You have to be careful of safeguarding, so that people don't feel that your stealing is their property, because that is also critical. So all of these we hope to benefit from as many people that can also support. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Right, I think we have 4 messages on the chart. So I'm going to take them.
Okay.
So we can also hear from people who are online. All right, so but any other person in the house, in the room, before we get people?
One quick
All right.
comment, just thank you for that. I mean, having worked with youth a little bit in the US, especially back in 2016, remember it's something that happened then, but it was getting the energy. This is back in my old home district in New Jersey where I grew up, where my parents lived. Getting the youth there who were very energized by current events and wanted to do something in their community, but were very attracted by the shiny object, whether it was a protest in DC. So it was how to get like going to town council meetings, studying notes of where at the town level. Are there, really dry stuff like, do we need more police crews? For example, how do we get resources directed towards where we're going to try to increase access and which developments within the town need the housing developments in the town need the most support. That is where decisions are made by a very small handful of people on a council, but without much input from those who are impacted the most by those decisions. So the attention grabbing is there, and art can be used to kind of grab the attention. And I wonder, how do you get it to lead to action? That's the main challenge that I've seen at the local level in the US and global.
I have a kind of piggyback question on that too. I think one thing that I was thinking about during the conversation was, I think over like the last 2 years, we've seen a lot more people get involved in a variety of different ways with, I would say, school boards in particular. Like, I think that that's the level of like civic engagement that we've kind of seen across counties, leading to change. I don't know if it was good change per se, but there's a lot more engagement with them and primarily at the parent level. So one question that I had is, if you're planning to engage with youth at council or at the county levels, what role do you anticipate parents playing? And I guess my second question was, how do you anticipate overcoming those obstacles that I think a lot of school boards and other institutions saw, as far as meetings getting really heated, political powers shifting, maybe in unhealthy ways, et cetera, et cetera.
To be honest, honestly, it's a learning opportunity for us. And I think we're taking all that sustaining momentum. It means that we have to diagnose sources of power more effectively, especially at the county level, at the centralized level, which comes back to your conversation on political economy. I think it's something that and that's why, like I said, we're not in a rush. We want to learn. Won't take a lot of time to learn. In fact, our expansion approach to countries is a way that we take like 6 months to do nothing. In most countries that we go to, and just learn, and just even understand and observe before we now say we want to even take programming forward. And this is part of our own learning. So we go back and start at the very micro level and to be able to see how best do we want to be able to drive it back. Because the end goal for us is that put more resources into the hands of those who work primarily and work challenge and be able to be much more equitable environment. There's always this Chinese city on the new view of everybody as of America. I know some of us when we stumble on people sleeping on the streets and just much more. They feel like the pain is just more like these are not it's not the Hollywood story that just appears out every single day when you see it. So in some sort of way, we need much more mindful of that and do that with proximity and humility. That's something that we want to do. So I think your question around teachers is also what's dimension is specific. See, we want talking about young people also, we also have something like that. That's also powerful issues. What we take mindful. I think if there's anybody that can help us get questions, no questions.
Sorry, there's one from Youth Bridge, from the Youth Bridge WhatsApp alumni room, saying that how can we engage young diasporans who are in the creative industry?
Yeah, so yes, we are thinking of that. In fact, there's someone who's part of the team, but we choose to hide identity just because of issues around maybe just being careful. So we're thinking of that would be our plug to bring young people to join us in this work. And I'm also being careful that we are in a different space, and we should allow people who are the people closest to pain, in this environment should actually be the front line. No one's trying to say we're exporting the culture from Nigeria yet. We want to explore learning, we want to explore what we have found and the opportunity and the approach and methodology. But we want to make sure that it's situated within the context of locally motivated. So I take that in. We're working with someone who is like an art head who's also but we want to be just much more likely of what's happening.
I think we have 2 more questions.
One quick question, if we still have time. Actually, also for you, Dr. Paul, it's really interesting to me that you mentioned Youth Bridge Foundation has had this journey working in Ghana, but also working in the US, I think, in a few other countries. And so I think just because there's such a strong parallel with what BudgIT is planning, it would be great to hear any of your reflections about that journey to expand across countries.
So this is putting me on the spot. I am sitting in on the person who was supposed to come here, but yes, Youth Bridge Foundation, we have for the past 13 years, Youth Bridge Foundation has been bringing youth across the continent together once a year, and it's the African Youth and Governance
African Youth Governance Conference.
Convergence, yeah, okay. And we have some alumni actually here.
I have as well.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but presently one of the ministers in Zambia is actually
It's alumni.
alumni. Okay, now several of the alumni have been able to do very well here in the US. Okay, and we are actually tapping a lot into their expertise as we try to do work here in the US. Okay, so personally, I haven't been that much involved in the journey, and this is all learning experience for myself. But we do have very capable, people who, it's a learning, yeah.
All right, I think that's the last question.
Maybe it's more just a comment, but it would be not to always play it safe in terms of the topics. I think there tends to be a tendency to start with safe sets of data that come from the public sector and engage around that and build. But I was always struck a couple of years after Hurricane Katrina, we did a learning visit to New Orleans and met with the government there, the city government. And actually, one of the first things they did, they had a whole conversation about how to rebuild trust for the citizens after the disaster. And opening up data was part of that. And one of the first data sets they actually persuaded the police chief to open up was around policing and responses to emergency situations, which is probably, in that context, given how that disaster played out, was probably one of the most sensitive things they could have done. And actually, got a positive response and helped to recast some of those relationships. So I think even with the experience that BudgIT has with NSARS and some of these other debates, I think there are parallels that can be brought out. And don't always think you have to start with the things that people want to feel contentious. Contentious is sometimes a good thing.
All right, thank you very much, and we really do appreciate your time. I think I'll call on Dr. Lawal. So yes, I'm good for All right, to give us a bit of thanks, and thereafter we can just have a meeting on the table outside. Please, it's Nigerian development.
All right, so thank you so much. As we prepare for we want to appreciate everyone that's on, that came on stage. It's a very important mission, starting from that little room in Victoria Island when before the mission started. It's a long journey and an exciting story, especially for young people. To quickly say that on that night, BudgIT was number 3. And the first 2 are not, I can't even remember them. It's just a long and important story. Especially after engaged young people and education and all the people. We want to say thank you to everyone that came around stage. And we really appreciate the support. No matter how creative, shown, and steam it can be, this is the United States of America. It's a very complex environment. I was looking at the map of Texas, almost like the whole of Nigeria. So we need help. And we will appreciate it, not just for funding, but also letting us understand how best to navigate the environment. Thank you so much for coming.
That was 12:30 dots. So before we leave, so we'd like to take a group picture and this is something that I to remember today. So where's the best person?
No, here, so with the BudgIT background. Yeah.
Can I add the top banner too?
Okay.
All right, so our first online.
I'm just praying. I said maybe they'll bring it up.